So, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure, I'm Martin MacMillan, I'm the CEO of Pollen VC. And what we do as a business is we allow developers earlier access to revenues they've earned on the App Store or Google Play, and we allow you to take the funds you've earned and to recycle that money back into user acquisition.
So, how did you get into Pollen VC? How did you start it up?
So the idea behind Pollen VC came from me being a developer who had this problem directly. So as the developer, you were waiting sometimes up to 67 days at one extreme in order to get paid for sales you've already made. So I was previously running a music app development company. I had this issue. I had about $20,000 in receivables clocked up, but I couldn't find anyone who understood what I was talking about in order to access those early. So I had a previous career in finance and spotted an opportunity to connect the old world and the new world together in a way that financial markets meets the specific financing requirements of app developers, and that's where Pollen VC came from.
Okay, and one of the main reasons why you try and release this cash early is due to the high costs of user acquisition. Can you tell us a little bit about something you've launched today that's going to hopefully help solve those problems a bit more for developers as well?
Sure. So today we launched Pollen 360, which is a user acquisition advisory service. So in addition to to allowing developers to actually recycle money back into user acquisition or even draw cash early, which is an alternative, we realized there was something missing in the business, which was a lot of developers were coming to us looking for advice around how to acquire users, how to acquire users profitably, how to do app store optimization properly, etc. So there were a lot of things that people were missing. So we decided to offer Pollen 360 as an advisory service. So importantly, what we won't do is we won't buy and program media for you, but what we will do is act as your trusted lieutenant on the shoulder of the developer who's providing completely free and completely unbiased, very importantly, advice around user acquisition strategies and growth strategies.
So what are some of the major challenges that developers are coming to you with in regards to that particular problem?
Probably the primary one is how to acquire users profitably. So I think the first thing you need to do is to really understand the metrics, understand your lifetime value, solve all the quick wins that are going to get your LTVs a little bit higher. Then look at the where you can acquire users and then what the relative costs are to do. So it's very easy to just go to some of the largest ad networks and say, this is the CPI, this is the LTV, I can or cannot make this work based on just basic unit economics. But actually what we found is there are always ways to acquire users that don't necessarily involve going to the big ad networks. There's always guerrilla tactics, and there are always people trying interesting things to acquire users. And so in our position as Pollen 360, one of the things we do is we see what's going on around the fringes and what could be applied into other users, other developers.
And coming into 2016, and as our last question, what kind of opportunities do you think there are going to be that are going to emerge within this coming year that developers might be able to take advantage of?
I think so. One of the key things that we're seeing is a good news story developed for indies. So obviously there's an L shape of revenue curve in terms of the very top guys do make around 50-55% of all revenues in the App Store is made around by the top 100 publishers. What happens though is that there's an emerging long tail. So a lot of people have been naysayers about how difficult it is and so on. But what we're starting to see is evidence of an emerging middle class or a long tail of app developers. So we actually produced a piece of research in November of last year called the Millionaires Index, showing how many developers made $1 million, $500,000, all the way down to $10,000 a year. And the numbers surprised us, and they surprised everyone we spoke to about them. So we think there's a good news story. In terms of funding, obviously it's very hard for companies, particularly in the gaming space, to raise venture money. Many are looking at the traditional publisher route, but that's increasingly milestone based, so it's less the large advances of money against the recoup on the publishing model. So one of the interesting models that we're seeing is studios who have previously done work for hire for other people using some money, recycling some of that money into creating their own intellectual property. So very often the studios are great at building games, but less good at marketing and some of the business aspects around it. And that's one of the things we're trying to help some of the smaller studios who build great games with, again, completely impartial user acquisition advice about how to beef up the business side of their business, so you can go from being a game developer into a games company.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you very much.